We have some breaking news at this hour. Johnson & Johnson's single-dose coronavirus vaccine has officially received emergency use authorization from the FDA. It is now the third COVID-19 vaccine authorized in the United States. Joining me now with more on this big development, NBC News correspondent Ellison Barber. Ellison, tell us what this all means.
Hey, Alicia. Yeah, so as you said, this is a big deal. This is the third COVID-19 vaccine that we have seen authorized. This obviously different than the other two in that it is considered to be much more accessible because you only need one dose of it. And also it doesn't have to be stored at super, super cold temperatures as the other two do initially. It can be kept at refrigerated temperatures. I want to read you some of the statement that is coming from the FDA just now. This authorization allows people 18 and older to be able to use this vaccine and for it to be distributed in the U.S. for use in individuals 18 and older. The acting FDA commissioner says this in a quote, "The authorization of this vaccine expands the availability of vaccines, the best medical prevention method for COVID-19 to help us in the fight against this pandemic, which has claimed over 500,000 lives in the United States." So here's what's going to happen next. We expect tomorrow at some point for a CDC advisory group to meet. They have to meet before we can actually see these vaccines go out and start making their way towards the appropriate healthcare area so that they can get in people's arms. So that CDC advisory group, they're the group that meets and they put out recommendations in terms of how this vaccine should be used and who it should be used for. Remember, they put out all those recommendations in the past saying, hey, this should probably first go to individuals 65 and older, then people with, high risk, things like that. So that is a necessary step before we can actually see the vaccines make their way out. Johnson & Johnson, they have said initially this first week, once they are able to get those vaccines moving, they expect to have 4 million doses out and available nationwide, and then they will ramp it up. And ultimately, towards the end of March, they say they'll have 2 million doses out and available. We expect it to leave from the building behind me, actually, and that could happen given when the CDC Advisory Board is able to meet, which we expect to happen sometime tomorrow. Most likely, we'll see that start moving on Monday. But again, as you said, the third COVID-19 vaccine to be approved in the United States, a really big deal because this is a single dose vaccine. And it comes at a time when we have seen more contagious strands of COVID-19 develop in New York and California. So this is another example of a vaccine coming at a time when it is critical, as it was for the last two as well. But the difference here is that this vaccine, based on what experts have said, is that it will be something that can get to people quicker and hopefully more people sooner to maybe get us closer to the end of this pandemic. Alicia?
So again, if you are just joining us now, the FDA has approved Johnson & Johnson's single-dose vaccine for emergency use. This is a single shot. It can be stored for 3 months at normal refrigeration temperatures. Can you tell me, Ellison, what they are telling you about how significant that is in terms of being able to get this to American people?
I mean, that is critical. We have heard people talk about the idea of potentially being able to take this just door to door and get it to people that way. I mean, I have seen initial reception of the Moderna vaccine. I was at a hospital in a rural part of Michigan where they got that vaccination and watched kind of the challenges in the process of, while that didn't necessarily need to be, that was a little easier, still needed to be cold, but not as cold as the Pfizer vaccine. That had so many challenges for particularly rural communities where they didn't necessarily have the resources to buy those really big refrigerators to keep the vaccine stored. So they were having to kind of finagle ways and time it out just right so they could make little shipments to other more rural communities and make sure that they were getting as many people vaccinated as possible. The difference, with something like this, I mean, obviously it's the simplicity of just having to administer one shot is very easy, but that cold temperature thing is a really, really big deal. I mean, initially when we saw the Pfizer vaccine get approved and I was at hospitals watching that, I met so many different pharmacists talking about how they had ordered additional big, super, super cold freezers because they had big freezers to keep medication at refrigeration levels, which is more normal, but they did not have all of those huge refrigerators. And those are really, really expensive. So in other smaller communities where they didn't have the money, getting all that in order, buying more, that's not something everybody could do. So the fact that this can actually just be stored at a refrigerated temperature, I mean, we can't, I don't think, overstate how big of a deal that is and how big of a game changer that is, particularly in communities and hospitals that are rural or communities and hospitals where they don't have a ton of healthcare resources or access to some of those big fancy freezers, that they can get this vaccine and hopefully very quickly get it to people, and also not have to tell people, hey, we know you took time out of work, we know you used gas money to come here to get the vaccine, come back again in 3-4 weeks for your second one. It's one and done.